How many of us highlight or underline the standout parts of our books to easily revisit? In this audio series, I'm going to share the most important and compelling parts of the most important and compelling books across my library for newcomers to them and for those who don't have the time or opportunity to read them. This is going to be from the book The Order of Time by Carlo Rovelli. This is the summarizing chapter, beginning page 193. We started out with the image of time that is familiar to us, something that flows uniformly and equally throughout the universe, in the course of which all things happen, with the idea that there exists throughout the cosmos a present, a now, constitutes reality. The past for everyone is fixed, is gone, having already happened. The future is open, yet to be determined. Reality flows from the past, through the present, toward the future. And the evolution of things between past and future is intrinsically asymmetrical. This, we thought, is the basic structure of the world. This familiar picture has fallen apart, has shown itself to be only an approximation of a much more complex reality. A present that is common throughout the whole universe does not exist. Events are not ordered in past, presents, and futures. They are only partially ordered. There is a present that is near to us, but nothing that is present in a far-off galaxy. Present is a localized rather than a global phenomenon. The difference between past and future does not exist in the elementary equations that govern events in the world. It issues only from the fact that, in the past, the world found itself subject to a state that, with our blurred take on things, appears particular to us. Locally, time passes at different speeds according to where we are and at what speed we ourselves are moving. The closer we are to a mass, or the faster we move, the more time slows down. There is no single duration between two events. There are many possible ones. The rhythms at which time flows are determined by the gravitational field, a real entity with its own dynamic that is described in the equations of Einstein. If we overlook quantum effects, time and space are aspects of a great jelly in which we are immersed. But the world is a quantum one. A gelatinous spacetime is also an approximation. In the elementary grammar of the world, there is neither space nor time, only processes that transform physical quantities from one to another, from which it is possible to calculate probabilities and relations. At the most fundamental level that we currently know of, therefore, there is little that resembles time as we experience it. There is no special variable time. There is no difference between past and future. There is no spacetime. We still know how to write equations that describe the world. In those equations, the variables evolve with respect to each other. It is not a static world or a block universe where all change is illusory. On the contrary, ours is a world of events rather than of things. This was the outward leg of the journey toward a universe without time. The return journey has been the attempt to understand how, from this world without time, for our perception of time to emerge. The surprise has been that, in the emergence of familiar aspects of time, we ourselves have had a role to play. From our perspective, the perspective of creatures who make up a small part of the world, we see the world flowing in time. Our interaction with the world is partial, which is why we see it in a blurred way. To this blurring is added quantum indeterminacy. The ignorance that follows from this determines the existence of a particular variable, thermal time, and of entropy that quantifies our uncertainty. Perhaps we belong to a particular subset of the world that interacts with the rest of it in such a way that this entropy is lower in one direction of our thermal time. The directionality of time is therefore real but perspectival. The entropy of the world as in relation to us increases with our thermal time. We see the occurrence of things ordered in this variable, which we simply call time, and the growth of entropy distinguishes the past from the future for us and leads to the unfolding of the cosmos. It determines the existence of traces, residues, and memories of the past. We human beings are an effect of this great history of the increase of entropy, held together by the memory that is enabled by these traces. Each one of us is a unified being because we reflect the world, because we have formed an image of a unified entity by interacting with our kind, and because it is a perspective on the world unified by memory. From this comes what we call the flowing of time. This is what we are listening to when we listen to the passage of time. In our everyday life, we move at low speeds in relation to the speed of light, and so we do not perceive the discrepancies between the different proper times of different clocks, and the differences in speed at which time passes at different distances from a mass are too small for us to distinguish. In the end, therefore, instead of many possible times, we can speak only of a single time, time of our experience, uniform, universal, and ordered. This is the approximation of an approximation of an approximation of a description of the world made from our particular perspective as human beings, who are dependent on the growth of entropy, anchored to the flowing of time. This is time for us, a multi-layered, complex concept with multiple distinct properties deriving from various different approximations. This is the physical structure of time as I understand it, after a lifetime of revolving around it. Many parts of this story are solid, others plausible, others still are guesses hazarded in an attempt to understand the whole. Practically all the things recounted in the first part of the book have been ascertained from innumerable experiments. The slowing down of time according to altitude and speed, the non existence of the present, the relation between time and the gravitational field, the fact that the relations between time are dynamic, that elementary equations do not recognize the direction of time, the relation between entropy and blurring. All this has been well ascertained. The fact that the increase in entropy which we observe depends on our interaction with the universe are ideas that I find fascinating, but are far from being confirmed or widely accepted. What is entirely credible in any case is the general fact that the temporal structure of the world is different from the naive image that we have of it. This naive image is suitable for our daily life, but it's not suitable for understanding the world in its minute folds or in its vastness. In all likelihood, it is not even sufficient for our understanding of our own nature, because the mystery of time intersects with the mystery of our personal identity, with the mystery of consciousness. The mystery of time has always troubled us, stirring deep emotions, so deep as to have nourished philosophies and religions. I believe that it was in order to escape from the anxiety time causes us, Parmenides wanted to deny its existence, that Plato imagined a world of ideas that exist outside of it, and that Hegel speaks of the moment in which the spirit transcends temporality and knows itself in its plenitude. It is in order to escape this anxiety that we have imagined the existence of eternity, a strange world outside of time that we would like to be inhabited by gods, by a god, or by immortal souls. Our deeply emotional attitude towards time has contributed more to the construction of cathedrals of philosophy than has logic or reason. The opposite emotional attitude, the veneration of time, Heraclitus or Bergson, has given rise to just as many philosophies, without getting us any nearer to understanding what time is. Physics helps us to penetrate layers of the mystery. It shows how the temporal structure of the world is different from our perception of it. It gives us the hope of being able to study the nature of time free from the fog caused by emotions. But in our search for time, advancing increasingly away from ourselves, we have ended up discovering something about ourselves. Perhaps, just as Copernicus, by studying the movements of the heavens, ended up understanding how the earth moved beneath his feet. Perhaps ultimately the emotional dimension of time is not the film of mist that prevents us from apprehending the nature of time objectively. Perhaps the emotion of time is precisely what time is for us. We may ask further questions, but when we cannot formulate a problem with precision, it is often not because the problem is profound, it is because the problem is false. Will we be able to understand things better in the future? I think so. Our understanding of nature has increased over the course of centuries, and we are continuing to learn. We are glimpsing something about the mystery of time. We can see the world without time, a precious miracle that the infinite play of combinations has unlocked for us, allowing us to exist. We may smile now. We can go back to serenely immersing ourselves in time, in our finite time, to savoring the clear intensity of every fleeting and cherished moment of the brief circle of our existence. And this ends page 203. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.